If you think the person buying that house down your street is a family like yours, you might want to think again. It's early 2026, and more homes in Canada aren't being bought by people who plan to live in them. They're being scooped up by investors, corporations, and yes, even by buyers who may never set foot in this country. And here's the part most people don't realize. When that happens, you're the one who pays the price. Everyone's worried about foreign billionaires buying up Canada's cities. But what if I told you that's just a smokescreen? The real story of who owns our country is something else entirely. We've uncovered the list of the real players, and I guarantee the biggest names on it are not who you think they are. It's not just about mansions in Vancouver. It's about the very land that feeds us and a system that allows it all to be sold off from under our feet. This isn't about race or immigration. This is about money, power, and a deliberate lack of transparency that is fundamentally changing our country. Section 1. The smokescreen. Why everyone blames foreign buyers. For the better part of a decade, the story has been simple, seductive, and repeated everywhere. Turn on the news, scroll through social media, or listen to a politician, and you'll hear the same thing. Foreign money is flooding Canada, buying up our real estate, and pricing hard-working Canadians out of the market. The picture they paint is always the same. Some mysterious offshore billionaire paying cash for a luxury penthouse, leaving it empty like a gold bar in a bank vault. This narrative is powerful because it feels true. We've all seen the headlines and heard the horror stories of bidding wars lost to faceless, numbered companies. It taps into a deep-seated fear that we're losing control of our own country, that the Canadian dream of home ownership is being sold to the highest international bidder. Politicians have definitely cashed in on this fear. We've seen foreign buyer taxes in British Columbia and Ontario. More recently, the federal government brought in the Prohibition on the Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act, a nationwide ban that started in 2023. In a move that shows just how potent this issue is, the government announced on February the 4th, 2024, that the ban would be extended another 2 years, all the way to January 1st, 2027. The message from Ottawa was clear. We're taking action against foreign speculation to make housing more affordable for you. The government's line is that foreign money coming into Canada to buy up residential real estate, increasing housing affordability concerns. They're painting a picture of a crisis fueled by offshore capital, selling the ban as the tool to stop houses from being treated as a speculative financial asset class. And on the surface, it makes sense. Why else would prices have climbed so high, so fast, completely disconnected from local wages? It's an easy explanation. It gives us a clear villain. But what if that villain is just a convenient distraction? What if the policies designed to stop them are more of a political smokescreen than a real solution? When we started digging into the data, we found that the story you've been told is, at best, a fraction of the truth. The real picture is way more complicated, and the real players are much closer to home. Section 2. The data doesn't lie. Busting the foreign buyer myth. When you look past the headlines and at the actual numbers, the whole foreign buyer narrative starts to fall apart. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's right there in the data from Statistics Canada. The most comprehensive recent data shows that as of 2022, non-residents owned only between 2% and 6% of residential properties in Canada. Let that sink in. Of all the homes in our country, just a tiny sliver are in foreign hands. Even in the so-called hotspots, the numbers are surprisingly low. In Metro Vancouver and the Greater Toronto area, foreign ownership was just 4.2%, and 3% respectively. Those are not the figures of a market being overrun. In fact, most economists agree that foreign buyers were never the main driver of the massive price hikes we've seen. Between 2015 and 2022, Canadian home prices shot up by over 60%, while foreign ownership stayed consistently in the low single digits. So, what happened after the government brought in all those taxes and bans? Did prices come back down to earth? Not really. The data shows foreign investment in our housing market actually peaked years ago, around 2016 to 2017, and has been falling ever since. Many analysts have called the foreign buyer ban that was extended to 2027 largely symbolic, because the problem it claims to solve had already shrunk on its own. The truth is, while we've been pointing fingers at offshore buyers, we've ignored the elephant in the room. The real story isn't about foreign investors, it's about domestic investors. In provinces like Ontario and British Columbia, Canadians who own more than one property hold nearly a third of all homes. That includes everyone from mom-and-pop landlords to large-scale Canadian investment firms. Compared to that massive slice of the market, the foreign buyer segment is a rounding error. Think about it. While we were focused on a few percentage points of foreign ownership, domestic investors now own roughly 1 in 4 homes in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. Losing the dream of home ownership wasn't an accident. It's the result of policies and loopholes that turned housing into a stock market. So you save for years, get your down payment, find a home, and lose out. Not to a foreign billionaire, but to a Canadian numbered company, a local investor, or a pension fund paying cash. The foreign buyer ban sounds tough, but it has loopholes big enough to drive a truck through. So who are the real owners? The answer isn't some foreign boogeyman. It's a set of financial machines built right here at home. Section 3. The real list. Unmasking the true owners. So if it's not foreign billionaires, who's really buying up Canada? The truth is, our land, both the homes in our cities and the farms that feed us, is being systematically bought up by a new class of owner, massive, faceless financial entities. They are real estate investment trusts, or REITs. They are huge corporate landlords, and they are giant agricultural corporations. This is the real list, and their business isn't building communities, it's generating returns for shareholders. Part A. The corporate landlords, REITs and investment funds. Let's start with your home, or more accurately, your rent. There's a decent chance your apartment building isn't owned by a person, but by a REIT. A real estate investment trust is basically a company that owns and operates income-generating real estate. Think of it like a mutual fund for property. Their legal duty isn't to provide affordable housing, it's to maximize profit for their investors. Over the last 2 decades, REITs have been quietly expanding. In cities like Toronto and Vancouver, they now own about 10% of all purpose-built rental units, and that number is closer to 11% in Montreal. While that might not sound huge, their impact is concentrated and massive. Studies by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, show that REITs target specific neighbourhoods, often those ripe for gentrification. What happens when a REIT takes over? The playbook is usually the same. They use their massive capital for big renovations. Sounds good, right? But it often comes with a strategy called repositioning, a sanitized term for pushing out long-term, lower-income tenants to attract new ones who can pay much higher rents. This is the financialization of housing in action. A home is no longer a place to live, it's an asset class, a line on a balance sheet. And it's a booming trend. In British Columbia, the number of companies owning at least 100 homes jumped 21.4% between 2018 and 2020 alone. These are corporations on a buying spree, and they are a far bigger force than any foreign buyer. Part B. The Farmland Giants. Canadian Agricor. This issue goes far beyond city limits. It stretches into the vast farmlands of the Canadian prairies, threatening not just our farmers, but our food security. And just like in housing, there's a popular villain: foreign countries buying up our agricultural land. But again, the data tells a different story. Provinces like Saskatchewan, home to 40% of Canada's farmable land, have strict laws that prohibit out-of-country investors from acquiring land. Alberta and Manitoba have limits on how much land non-residents can buy. So who is buying it? The biggest players are Canadian. Let's name names. One you absolutely need to know is Robert Angelich. With no farming background, he sold a massive real estate portfolio and started buying up farmland. Today, his company, Angelic Land Inc., is Canada's largest farmland owner, controlling a staggering 248,000 acres, mostly in Saskatchewan. To put that in perspective, that's an area larger than the entire city of Calgary. He is reportedly the second largest private owner of cropland in all of North America, right behind Bill Gates. Angelic Land leases this vast territory to over 250 different farmers. And he's not the only one. Another major player is Avenue Living. Through its fund, Tract Farmland Partners LP, the Calgary-based firm has acquired over 50,000 acres of farmland in Saskatchewan. This is a fundamental restructuring of who controls the land that feeds us. Proponents argue they're helping farmers rent land to grow their business. But critics, like the National Farmers Union, say this model prices young farmers right out of the market. How can a family trying to start a farm compete with a billion-dollar corporation? They can't. This consolidation concentrates control of our food supply and turns farming into a tenant-landlord relationship. Part C. The government itself, the ultimate landlord. Here's the most shocking name on the list: the government itself. It's a fact so big, it's almost completely overlooked. The vast majority of land in Canada is not privately owned. It is Crown land. Roughly 89% of Canada's landmass is owned by either the federal or provincial governments. The other 11% is the private property we all buy and sell. So when we talk about owning a piece of Canada, we're talking about a tiny sliver of the country. This has enormous consequences. The government, as the ultimate landlord, decides who gets to use this vast public inheritance. They grant leases and licenses for everything from mining and forestry to energy projects. When a company clear-cuts a mountainside or builds a pipeline, that's a Crown land decision. These leases can last for decades, effectively transferring control of public land to private corporations for generations. The revenue is significant, yet the decision-making is often opaque. It raises a critical question: is the government managing this land for the public good or for corporate profit? Understanding this shatters the myth of Canada as a landscape of private property and forces us to ask if we're truly benefiting from the land we collectively own. Section 4. How it's happening. The loopholes and the system. This isn't just about the players, it's about the game. It's a game played through a system riddled with loopholes and a deliberate lack of transparency. The reason you don't hear as much about these corporate buyers is because their ownership is often intentionally hidden. The key to this is a concept called beneficial ownership. Who ultimately owns and benefits from an asset? In Canada, getting a straight answer has been nearly impossible. An investor can create a numbered company, which can be owned by a trust, which can be administered by a law firm with anonymous beneficiaries. The trail goes cold. This is how the financialization of our land happens in the shadows. Domestic and foreign investors alike use these structures to buy up huge portfolios without public scrutiny. For years, advocates have been demanding a solution, a public beneficial ownership registry. And after years of pressure, it's finally happening. As of early 2026, the federal government's public registry is now live, thanks to new rules under Bill C-42, which received royal assent in late 2023. Provinces like BC and Quebec are also launching their own. But it's just the beginning. A registry is only as good as its enforcement. Will the data be verified? Will there be real penalties for lying? And the foreign buyer ban itself still has exemptions. It doesn't apply to buildings with 4 or more units, allowing foreign capital to keep flowing into the very rental towers that institutional investors love to buy. The system as it exists wasn't an accident. It was built to facilitate capital flow, often with little regard for the social consequences. Section 5. The stakes. Why this matters to you. This might all sound abstract. REITs, beneficial ownership, crown land, but it's not. This is about your life, your family's future, and the kind of country we're becoming. The financialization of our land has a direct and painful cost, and you're the one paying it. Every time a corporation outbids a family for a home, the price for everyone goes up. That home becomes a new comparable for the neighborhood, artificially inflating values. This is how the dream of home ownership slips away. You aren't just competing with other families. You're competing against billions in institutional capital that sees that home as an asset that needs to deliver a return. If you're a renter, you're on the front lines. When a corporate landlord takes over your building, you're no longer dealing with a person. You're dealing with an asset manager. Their goal is to increase net operating income, which means cutting maintenance or, more often, jacking up rents. This is where renovictions come from, pushing tenants out for cosmetic upgrades to justify huge rent hikes. When our farmland is consolidated by a few corporations, it affects the price of your groceries. It jeopardizes our food sovereignty and crushes the next generation of Canadian farmers. This is a quiet transfer of wealth and power away from ordinary Canadians and into the hands of a small group of financial players. 20 years ago, Canada was one of the best places in the world to work hard and build a stable life. For millions, that promise is now broken. The feeling of being powerless is real. But it doesn't have to be this way. The first step to fixing this is making sure everyone understands the real problem. The corporate media and politicians won't tell this story, so it's up to us. If you believe we need to protect our homes and our farmland from being sold off to the highest corporate bidder, then share this video. Send it to your friends, your family, and your elected officials. And let's get this conversation started in the comments. Do you think corporate ownership is destroying the Canadian dream? Comment below. The algorithm pushes conversations with high engagement, so your comment can help more Canadians see this. Comment, protect our farmland, to help get this video out there. Section 6. The solution, the path to taking back control. Exposing a problem is only half the battle. We can't just get angry. We have to get organized and demand real change. The path to taking back control of our land isn't a secret. The tools exist. We just need the political will to use them. The single most powerful tool is transparency. We must demand the full and rapid implementation of that public beneficial ownership registry in every province and make sure it's robust, searchable and verified, with real penalties for false information. Transparency is a disinfectant that would let us see exactly who owns our country. Second, we need tax reform that prioritizes homes for people, not for profit. This could mean a progressive property tax, where owners of many properties pay a higher rate. It means closing loopholes that let corporate investors treat housing like a stock market, and instead creating incentives for affordable, long-term rentals. Third, for our farmland, we must strengthen protections that keep land in the hands of farmers. This means enforcing and expanding provincial restrictions on corporate ownership and creating programs to help new farmers access land and capital. Finally, we need a serious national conversation about how our crown land is managed. Decisions about our public lands and resources should be made in the open, with the primary goal of serving the long-term public good, not the short-term profits of corporations. None of this is radical. It's about restoring balance. A different ending. The story we've been sold about who owns Canada is a convenient fiction. It blames a shadowy foreign buyer, letting us avoid a much more uncomfortable truth. The real players aren't a distant boogeyman. They are the financial systems and corporate entities we've allowed to flourish right here at home. They are the REITs turning our homes into assets, the agricultural corporations consolidating our farmland, and a system that has long valued secrecy over transparency. This is not a partisan issue. It is a Canadian issue. It cuts to the core of what kind of society we want to be. Will we be a nation of renters, beholden to corporate landlords for our shelter and food? Or will we be a nation where the dream of having a stake in our own country is still possible for the average person? The way forward isn't to build higher walls to the outside world, but to fix the broken systems inside our own house. It starts with demanding transparency, rewriting the rules to favor families over funds, and reclaiming the idea that a home is, first and foremost, for people. The power to change this is in our hands, but only if we understand the real story and demand a different ending.